which then leads us to a fascinating player that people have got such mixed views on. Victor Osimhen, Galatasaray last season on loan from Napoli. It's important to say suggestions of the release clause, but also various reports say he only has a year left to go on his deal. The oldest of all the three at 26 years old. We'll throw in AFCON right now as a statement, Bart, because someone is going to, just to save people time in what they're doing. Yes, we will have a good breakdown of his injury record to save your agent on that chat panel as well. But there you go. That was me kicking out my battery pack just I was in full flow, and I thought I'd made a great point as well about Victor Osimhen. Apologies for that, ladies and gents. But oldest goals.
Yeah.
We'll get to the wage bit chat as well. But I suppose we've got to justify why Victor Osimhen is the silver medal position.
I think so. I started to say, look, if you look at comparing him to Isaac again, because we did that for TK, he's a different player, right, for a start, but he outperforms Isaac considerably on aerials, on non-penalty goals, on shot creating actions and non-penalty goals and assists, right? So whereas TK was in and around, and if you took the bully league differential in, it would probably bring it underneath, right? Osimhen outperforms Isaac on some of the key stuff, like putting the ball in the back of the net. He outperforms it, right? Yes, it was Turkey, and there's a differential for that as well, which I think is actually worse than Bully. So, yeah, there's some things to take into account there. But if you look at his overall, so defensively, he's a bit of a mixed bag. He does win you a lot of aerials, which, considering some of the other pods we've done, we've started to make the team small. You could do with adding a bit of height, someone who can help you out with that, right?
He's good in the air. Yeah.
He's good in the air, right? 91st percentile. Interceptions, the same as a TK. That's kind of what he does. He doesn't do the other stuff. All right. That's just to put it out. Like, he's in line with the TK for that. In between the boxes, remember a TK was all mostly green. He had above 90 for a lot. Osimhen touches in the penalty box. 99th percentile, so you can't get much higher than that. He's in the box when you want him to be. Tax players on at 78th percentile, progressive carries at 82nd percentile, but everything else is kind of, passes attempted, basically doesn't pass the ball. Pass completion 68%, which I know we have a lower threshold for our forwards, but that's still on the low end for our forwards. All right, that's like Nunes on a bad game. Progressive passes 10, not attempting them. All right. And then we have progressive passes received. So is he receiving them? It's a little bit lower rate. If we look at what he does in the box, and this is probably a key thing to look at. So the assists are down, so they are less than a TK's at 65th percentile. But the rest in terms of non-penalty goals, 95th percentile. So remember TK's was in the 70th. This guy's in the 95th. Non-penalty goals, 99th percentile. Yeah. So these are the key things. Shots total, 99th percentile. Over 7 a game. Yeah. These are stuff that when you think about your thing about we've got to win for the next 2 years, you can't afford to be doing that, right? Taking your shots, doing it. Just to be fair, who does he compare with in terms of F brief? They've got Haaland in there. They've got they've got Jota again, and they've got Watkins. So that's kind of some names that people might be aware of. If you look at the minutes he's played last season, he clocked in just under 2,500. Okay, so that's just in domestic leagues, not including Europe. So there's some bits to go on that. All right. If you look at his performance stuff, so passing. Again, he's involved. Okay, it's not he's not as high as a TK, but he is involved. He's not involved as much in the half spaces of 14 in terms of passing, which is annoying, but that's where he is. in terms of percentage of threat that is part of how he helps the team out, he's lower than a TK. He's less than 2% of his actions create threat for his teammates, right? So that's lower than a TK. TK was nearly 8, 9. And that will show you in his threat production. It's just, it's not great. Off the ball, it's low enough to not even give you a figure. But he does cover a lot of ground. So that whereas a TK was a really small zone off the ball, Osimhen is a high amount, but there's not a lot of actions going on there. If you know what I mean. So he's doing a lot of running, so he might need some help with that. And the key thing that people will be shouting, they always do, whenever they talk about Osimhen, isn't it? It's always injuries.
Yeah.
Right? And if we look at games missed, right, his average for the last 3 seasons is 11 games missed per season, which is a lot. I'm not going to knock that, right? That's not, that's not something you want to see. But last season, he only missed 77 games. The season before that was 15 and 11. So he's had the highest he's had is 24, which was nearly 5 years ago. So it's come down. It would be interesting to see if our guys could manage that. Bearing in mind, Kanate was coming up a season and missing a lot of games, and he apart from some guy landing on his shoulder, he did pretty well for the whole season, right? So, it's still a red flag for me, though. 11 games is a lot, and for someone who's in and around the 3,000 minute mark, there's some gaps to fill, should we say? Now the Turkish league isn't in under stat, but if you look at his last season with Napoli, he was supposed to score 17 goals. He scored 15 in the league. Assists, he was supposed to assist 3.5. He assisted 3. So he was kind of bang on the numbers. Season before that, he was, again, pretty much bang on the numbers. Season before that, he scored a goal more than he should have done, right? Or goal and a half. So, but if you look at that consistently, for the last 4 years, he's been pretty much bang on what he should have scored and what he should have assisted. All right. Now the ratio is different. All right. He's scoring more or less assists, should we say, but he's bang on what he should be doing, i.e., big chance comes to him, and according to understat, he invariably takes that chance. Yeah. So that's something to put into the pot with it. You said to me he's in and around the 60 million. I know he's got a year left, so we could probably negotiate that down a bit in terms of a fee. But his wages, I think you said to me today, was what, 300 grand a week?
Yeah, this again, you're off reports and suggestions, but you have to remember as well, he turned down over 500,000 for Al Hilal. And yes, he wants to stay in Europe, but he's not going to be cheap, is he? He's going to be the highest wages out of the 3.
Yeah, and that if you took 300 grand a week, that's 16 million a year, right, a season. So that's a considerable jump up from Hugo, right? And it's actually more than Isaac's asking for. So that's, for me, in between the boxes, he's not as good as the other 2. He's got an injury record which is worse than Hugo's. He's probably better in the box at the moment than Hugo. So performance tick. Off the ball, he's around the same as Hugo, probably a little bit worse. And his wages are a little bit worse. But for that win now attitude that I think the pair of us are kind of in that mindset, as the stats kind of bear out, he largely performs in line with his XG and his XA for the seasons, which I think if you want to get someone to win now, that's kind of what you need.
I suppose there's a few bits on that I want to explore a bit more because, like you said, I mean, the Turkish league, I'm not saying it doesn't count. I don't want to be harsh on that. I know he's got 26 goals, but he got 6 in Europa, so 32 in all competitions this season. Even before, though, 23-24, when it suggested he started to have the problems with Napoli and the various rows, all the things that no one's quite certain about, he still got 15 goals, as you mentioned, in Serie A, and a couple in the Champions League. So that's 17. And of course, the season before, that famous 22-23, when Napoli were all conquering, obviously he gets over 30 goals across all competitions. So he does have the pedigree. That's the first thing you've got to say, haven't you? And the second bit, which always strikes me, is pretty much he's on his XG. He doesn't really indicate he's a hot and cold blower as we talk about, is it?
He's bang on. He's He's, it's that kind of just being par is an undersold value to have as a forward, right? It's just, if you just score the amount you're supposed to score, everyone's happy. You know what I mean? It's just but it's remarkably difficult to do.
Which with Salah and Wirtz in the team does make you think this boy would, or whoever would be getting chances galore. So even just par would probably be an outstanding amount as we want for now. The only thing is, I know you had it up early. If we just bring it up on the screen, because injuries are obviously, he's maybe the biggest red flag in terms of injuries. And people reference this because he had a broken cheekbone, which I always think collision injuries, as we know, impact injuries they talk about. It's hard to hold those against the player. Sometimes they're just unlucky in the way it can work.
Yeah.
But if you scroll up a bit on that screen, Bart, and I'm looking down, the word muscle comes up an awful lot, doesn't it, over the last 3 years?
Yeah. They're not contact injuries.
No.
They are, and they're also, you've got hamstring. You've got, these are not labelled because they probably don't want to give away, and the GDPR has changed.
Yeah.
I think when we looked at this a couple of years ago before the rule, and I think they rule like hamstring. So that's not what you want. You don't want your quick lads to have hamstring injuries. So that would be a concern of mine going forward. It's the type of injury rather than the amount as well. So yeah, that's another red flag. The last, as you say, contact injury you had was the collarbone, which was back in 21-22. But after that, it's all been either a fever or fitness randomly. I've never seen that one. And then it's just muscular injury. So yeah, it's that is a bit of a worry for me.
That is the dossier, I suppose, on there. And yeah, obviously wages. And listen, people, I know the chat panel's going, we can debate this all day about AFCON, whether that sways it. But the reason why we're putting Osimhen over Ekitike is a win now attitude, the context of the team, where we are. And yes, I know we'd lose him and Mo in January, but Christ, we'll be miles ahead with them two just there and then coming back as well. So we'll bring that into the mix. That is why Victor Osimhen gets silver.